Welcome back to Legal Verdict Daily. Today on r/MaliciousCompliance, an influencer demands free work and gets a public statement she will never forget. Let's inspect the evidence. I run a small fitness consultancy business. Have done for the past few years. Since setting up, I have largely relied on word of mouth for most of my business, so I typically do not have to deal with a lot of difficult clients. But I recently had a run-in with a woman who has genuinely made my blood boil. Oh boy, here we go again. Another influencer thinking the world owes them a living based on their follower count. This woman, let's call her Gigi for the sake of anonymity, sent me a DM a few weeks ago. She said she was looking to lose weight and tighten up her physique for summer. Gigi didn't really fit my usual client demographic. Usually 30s and 40s, she was young, mid-20s, and boasted a decent follower count, seemed to be a local influencer of some description. This piqued my interest. I thought perhaps I could benefit from her connections to boost my business somewhat. A business owner sees a potential marketing opportunity, a tale as old as time. Little did our OP know. This particular influencer was about to be the textbook definition of buyer beware. How wrong I was. The initial consultation over text was pretty standard. I asked her some details about her past exercise history, diet, and so on before getting to work on her meal and exercise plan. Then it moved to the matter of payment. I had mentioned pretty early on that I typically charge $50 for my plans, but either she didn't read that or decided to feign willful ignorance. When I reminded her of the price, she said, and I quote, "I was wondering whether you would be interested in getting yourself some exposure instead of payment." Kyo. The audacity of this person. Some people to think their social media presence is worth more than actual money. $50 is a small price for expertise. I hate to say it, but at the time, I was seriously thinking of taking her up on her offer. However, after talking to some of my friends, I snapped out of it, resolving to be firm with the price instead, which she accepted, albeit somewhat begrudgingly. Looking back on it now, I am kind of stunned that she genuinely expected me to give it to her for free. But I guess that's how the influencer economy works these days. This person is completely delusional. The classic influencer tactic: test the waters with a ridiculous exposure offer, and when that fails, begrudgingly pay up, all while thinking they are still getting a massive deal. The plan consisted of exercises and recipes mainly designed around helping her lose weight. Usually, I advise most of my clients to try and maintain light to moderate calorie deficits. Not only is this overall healthier, with less muscle loss, but they tend to suck a lot less than dramatic calorie reductions, so are easier to maintain in the long run. I explained all this to Gigi, said that she understood it meant progress wouldn't be immediate. And as such, I thought we were on the same page. This is a crucial detail. OP clearly communicated the realistic timeline and methodology. No promises of overnight transformations here. Just sound, sustainable advice. A week later, I woke up at 5 a.m. to an Instagram call from Gigi. I didn't even know you could call people on Instagram. Half awake, I picked up the phone. 5 a.m. Instagram call. That is unbelievable. Are you serious right now? And what's the reason for this ungodly hour wake up call? Let me guess. She is already unhappy. You are a freaking scammer. You think this stuff is some kind of joke. I was still in a daze. so I weakly asked her what was going on. Wow, starting the day with a bang. Scammer is a pretty strong word for someone who actually delivered a service. This is going to be good. I just weighed in after a week on your bullshit plan. I am up half a freaking pound. I asked her to slow down and breathe, which seemed to calm her down, albeit temporarily. Half a pound after 1 week? Absolutely not. And she is calling you a scammer? The sheer entitlement. Weight loss isn't a race. It's a marathon. And this woman clearly didn't grasp the concept. I explained to her that we had been through this before, and that weight loss isn't a linear process, and that scale measurements can be offset from anything from water weight, clothes, time of day, and so on. You are just covering your freaking butt? Cut the garbage right now. Oh, of course, any explanation OP gives is just them covering their butt, the classic deflection when caught in their own unreasonable expectations. Oh well, I tried. Guess you can't talk sense to an unstable influencer at 5 a.m.? I have got a swimwear collaboration I need to shoot this week, and you freaking lied to me. Your plan didn't freaking work. A swimwear shoot, so her real motivation wasn't health. It was a cosmetic deadline, and she expected miraculous results in 7 days. This woman is completely detached from reality. Influencer to English translation. I successfully got something for free. And now I need to rip into you for something I didn't get for free. Bear in mind, this girl is by no means overweight. Her BMI was already comfortably in the healthy range. But I guess an influencer's work is never done. Translator chip, excellent. The I am already healthy, but need to be impossibly thin for a photo shoot dilemma. A common affliction in the influencer world, apparently. On the verge of tears, she continued, do you know how messed up I am? I followed your plan to the freaking letter, and look where it freaking got me, based on her tone. And the time of the morning she called, she was almost definitely on the receiving end of 3 to 4 margaritas. Comfortably, which definitely wasn't in the plan, but I didn't feel like pointing out the obvious. Wow, that sounds incredibly stressful to deal with, especially at 5 in the morning. It's sad that people get so caught up in external pressures they lash out at those trying to help them. An hour later she messaged again, still unhinged, but slightly more coherent. Refund me immediately. And post a public statement on your page admitting your plan doesn't work, and that I was right to call you out. Do it by noon, or I start tagging every local gym and every brand that has ever worked with you. A refund and a public apology admitting fault, and a deadline of noon. Org. Oh, likes. That is tough to hear. This is pure blackmail. The sheer nerve to demand such a thing after her unhinged tirade. But then again, she did ask for exposure earlier. Perhaps OP saw an opportunity here. I sat with that for a minute. Then I had an idea. I refunded the $50 within the hour and posted the following. Word for word as requested on my business page public statement, as requested by Gigi's handle, I refunded the client in full. My standard plan prioritizes sustainable, moderate deficits and long-term adherence, rather than dramatic one-week scale drops. The client reported following the plan to the freaking letter and still gained 0.5 pounds in 7 days. Therefore, by the client's own stated metric and timeline, the plan did not produce the immediate results she required for her swimwear shoot. She was correct to call this out. Porg. Oh, brilliant. What a genius move. She demanded a public statement, and OP delivered, word for word, but framed it in such a way that it completely exposes her ridiculous demands and unrealistic expectations. Pure unadulterated malicious compliance. For context, we both live in a small, tight-knit city where everyone knows each other, particularly in the business community. I wanted to make sure any other potential brand collaborators knew who they were dealing with. I left it at that. No extra commentary, no screenshots, no mention of the 5 a.m. call, the margaritas, the original request for free work, or the fact that she was already in a healthy BMI range. This is where the genius lies. OP didn't directly attack Gigi, but by simply stating the facts of the agreement and her demands, and placing it within the context of a small community, the truth of the situation became self-evident to everyone involved. By lunch, the post had been screenshotted and circulated in a few local fitness groups. People started asking the obvious questions under her posts. She tried to walk it back, claiming he twisted her words, then deleted her original rant, then went quiet. And there it is, the influencer backtracking, the denial, the deletion classic. Once the community started asking questions, the facade crumbled. OP's statement was too factual and too damning to overcome. The collab still happened. From the photos that went up, the half-pound gain was invisible, my page. Meanwhile, picked up a small but steady stream of new inquiries from people who specifically said they wanted the boring, sustainable version I never heard from Gigi again. And that, my friends, is how you turn a ridiculous demand for exposure and an early morning rant into a marketing coup, and a lesson learned for an entitled influencer. The exposure she got was definitely not the kind she wanted. It's just like the saying goes, exposure is a dish best served cold, or in this case, served publicly, factually, and with a side of exquisite malicious compliance. Chef's kiss. Let's see what the Reddit community had to say. We have a supportive comment here from user The Blonde One. Stating, "Hi OP, just a quick note of support for what you do. My partner needed to lose a good amount of weight safely. He consulted our local you, who worked extensively with him to devise a plan in exactly the way you described in your post. I am sure I do not have to tell you this worked exactly as it should, and was well worth the money to get the professional and tailored plan." OP replied simply, "Great to hear he found what he was looking for." This comment highlights the value of OP's approach and contrasts it with Gigi's unrealistic demands. It reinforces that OP's business model is sound and that clients who seek genuine, sustainable results appreciate it. From a legal perspective, this situation is less about a direct legal battle and more about contract law principles and reputation management. OP fulfilled their contractual obligation by providing a fitness plan. The client's demand for immediate, drastic results after only 1 week, despite being informed otherwise, falls outside the scope of the initial agreement, the exposure offer being non-monetary and vague, would likely not be legally binding without further formalization. OP's action was a form of malicious compliance, fulfilling the letter of a demand, the public statement and refund, in a way that highlighted the absurdity of the demand itself. Legally, OP had the right to refuse the demand for a refund and public apology as it wasn't based on a breach of contract. However, by choosing to comply with the demand in a calculated manner, OP leveraged the situation to their advantage, protecting their reputation in their local business community. asshole score, Gigi gets a 10 out of 10 for her entitled behavior, unreasonable expectations, and aggressive, unfounded accusations. OP 0. This was a masterclass in handling a difficult client. OP provided a service, communicated expectations clearly, and when faced with unreasonable demands and threats, used intelligent, retaliatory compliance. The final verdict is a resounding win for OP. The influencer received the exposure she craved, but it was the kind that exposed her own unprofessionalism and unrealistic demands to her local community, ultimately benefiting OP's business, malicious compliance at its finest. That wraps up today's case on Legal Verdict Daily. What would you do in OP's shoes when faced with an exposure-demanding influencer? Let us know in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe, and we will see you in